Portrait of a Fangirl, and I'm here today with Anne Yatco. How are you, Anne?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for agreeing to come on and talk with me for a little bit.
Of course.
So, first off, what do you think of when you hear the term fangirl?
Oh, when you say fangirl, I think of someone who is passionate, someone who knows what they like and will pursue that, doggedly, not even doggedly, with abandon. That's it. Without abandon. That's what it is. Yeah.
Ferociously, right? Yeah. What does being a fangirl mean to you specifically?
It's funny because when I was a kid, I watched Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z because that's what was available, in small town Illinois. But I didn't have the resources to go find other anime. You know what I mean? I could read about other anime and manga, but I didn't ever watch anything else because it wasn't available to me and I didn't know where to go find it. And I didn't know anyone else around me in my circles who was into it. I kind of self-edited that for a really long time. Just okay, well, no one's really into it, so I'll just, it's a thing that I like looking at every once in a while. And, if I ever get a chance to watch anime, I will. It really wasn't until I was in my 20s that I really started to come back to anime in a much more fuller sense as a fan. And when I was able to, actually watch stuff on Netflix, streaming was really what allowed me to be able to have access to anime and really fall in love with it fully. I was able to finally watch all of Sailor Moon because only the first 2 seasons were available in syndication for the longest time. But yeah, and it's now that I'm in my 30s. So it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I started, and it's only really been 10, 15 years of true fandom because I finally gave myself the permission to and had the resources available to watch all that stuff, consume all that media.
Right. I definitely relate to that myself. I didn't watch any anime until I was in my 30s. I'm in my 30s now. Yeah. And it was oh, I feel like I'm a late bloomer to this. I missed out all these years.
But we make up for it.
We make up for it. I feel like, you're in your 30s and 20s, you're a little more self-possessed. You know yourself more than you did when you were a teenager.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you mentioned Sailor Moon, were there some other things that you were passionate about when you were younger that you would say were considered your fangirl, your fandoms?
Yes. Jane Austen. Jane Austen is my favorite author. I have read those 6 books back and forth, and even I've read Sandition, but that was my fandom coming into, from my teens into my 20s with stuff like that and period dramas. I love all of the adaptations of Pride and Prejudice. Persuasion is my favorite. It's my favorite novel. It's a lesser known one, but there's the BBC adaptations of the Jane Austen novels. It's Pride and Prejudice, everyone loves Colin Firth, right? And then
of course,
Persuasion is amazing. If you ever have a chance to watch the BBC Persuasion from the late 90s or whatever, it's so restrained. It's so you feel so bad for her. And it's so good because it really just it's not super what's what I'm looking for? Melodramatic.
Right.
It just feels very matter of fact for so long. And then all of a sudden you get to the very end and all of a sudden all the feelings hit and then you're crying. It's great. And there was a brand new adaptation recently with Dakota Johnson. Right? I think that's her name. I think it's the name of the actress. And I actually really enjoyed it because it felt more like we were spinning Persuasion into a Bridget Jones's Diary sort of feel. And I was here for it. I thought it was delightful.
Right. It was making it more, I guess, relatable, right?
Yeah, more relatable to a contemporary audience. And I bet you that there are a lot of Jane Austen purists who'd be like, not my Jane Austen. And I would say, why not? Why can't it be more people's Jane Austen?
It could be everybody's. I mean, look at how many times they've updated Shakespeare stories into modern into modern art.
And I'm even forgetting my favorite Jane Austen adaptation is Clueless. It is it's Emma, and it is a perfect modern retelling of Emma.
Clueless is great. Right? It's crazy to think that it is as old as it is now. It still holds up so good.
I know. So I used to live like 2 blocks away from the liquor store that was used in the scene where Cher got robbed. And
Oh my goodness.
Every time I would pass by it, I would be like, this is an Alaya.
That must be really cool, like growing up, because I'm assuming you grew up or you lived around there. California?
Yeah. And I mean, it's just like I lived there for a few years because I live in California now and like just moved around a little bit. And so like for a couple of years, I lived like right there.
That's so cool. I would definitely be pointing that out every time I walk past.
Yes.
And there's nothing cool like that out by where I'm on Long Island. So it's like, but the city, New York City, sometimes you get some cool stuff.
Totally.
But I love that. I love how you kind of touch on that fandom isn't necessarily quote unquote like nerd culture. It's anything you're passionate about as a person. It could be literally books, music, anything you can be a fan of.
I mean, fandom also like applies to sports. Like so many people are fans of sports teams. Like I used to be in love with the Chicago Bulls when I actually paid attention to basketball. The Chicago Bulls from 96 to 99. That was, that's my childhood right there.
Oh yeah, I was big into every time the Olympics would roll around. And when I was a teenager, I was
oh my God. Figure skating in the winter, gymnastics in the summer, swimming. Oh, I love swimmers.
The swimmers. I remember everybody wanted to be like Sarah Hughes. Do you remember Sarah Hughes, the figure skater? Because she was from Long Island too, and it was like a big deal that somebody from Long Island was in the Olympics and she won. But it's great to think of fandom in such an encompassing way where it's not limiting or pigeonholing people into an area, you know?
Totally.
I love that. Now, when you decided to become a voice actor, was there something that you were a fangirl of in particular that inspired your career choice?
Yes. So when I was like, 5 or 6 years old, this is me aging myself, The Little Mermaid came out. And when the So when The Little Mermaid came out, like I watched it in the movie theater and I was like, wow, I want to be just like her. I want to be a mermaid, which is not physically possible. So then I was like, well, I want to sing like her. So then I took singing lessons forever. And then I was really just like, I want to be able to like voice a Disney princess. And that's always been my dream. And it's still my like the shoot for the moon goal. It's like someday if I voice a Disney princess, I could die happy.
That's your dream.
That could be it. I could just like walk off a cliff afterward and be done. It's fine.
Don't do that.
But yeah, no, the Disney movies from that era were so like fundamental to like my growth. It's like I think there's like a whole generation of us who are like between Little Mermaid and maybe it ends around like Pocahontas, Tarzan, something like that.
A little later in the 90s-ish.
Yeah, like those are like that whole like slew of movies. Like they never missed, man. And never missed like the music, the acting. Like, I mean, I'll be honest. Like now that I'm in my late 30s, I look back and I'm like, okay, you know, some things don't live up. You know, some things don't stand the test of time. But
age well,
exactly. But there was something just so magical about that, and in a time when streaming wasn't a thing. Like for us to have these like cultural moments like that was like so cool as a kid, you know, like that was for me what Star Wars was like to, you know, the generation before me, at least, you know, that's like where I kind of see it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it was huge. Disney at that time. That was the renaissance of their musicals. I can totally see how that would affect you as a young child because I said I was around the same age. I loved all that stuff too.
Yeah.
But that's really interesting how that kind of impacted your career choice.
Totally. It was like the first thing that got me like interested in performing, right? And then for me, it was like that dichotomy of like, well, I gotta like, you know, I gotta get good grades in school. I gotta be a doctor versus I just really like to sing and act and, you know, do things that make me happy. And eventually, like, you know, I was kind of like riding this, like the two trains, you know, in parallel. And then just a few years ago, I was able to finally like kind of move off of one track and only do the acting track.
Now, how did that happen for you? How did you finally get to go in the direction that you were really always hoping for? So
it's like a really long journey. So like, I have a degree in biomedical engineering from Marquette University.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. But the whole time I was just hanging out at the theater every free second. I was in all the plays. I was taking all the classes. Like I could have double majored in theater if I didn't have to do all the core credits for the School of Communications, you know?
Right.
But after getting while I was in my last year of undergrad, I was convinced to go try out for grad school, and I got into grad school for acting. So
oh my goodness.
That's why I moved to California, because I got my MFA at the California Institute of the Arts in Valencia, California, which is famous, I think most famous for its animation school. A lot of famous animators have come out of CalArts. But yeah, I went to the acting school there, got my MFA in acting. It was a wonderful education. Met some of my best friends. And after that, I was just like, okay, student loans are a real thing. So now I got to get a real job. And I found a job as a forensic scientist for like 7 years, 7.5. Yeah. So I did accident reconstruction, but all the while I'm like doing plays in Los Angeles. I'm taking improv classes, taking sketch comedy classes, voiceover classes. I caught my reel. I like started like just submitting for stuff that I could find. And I booked like my first few roles, like some video games, like a commercial randomly. And then I kind of fell into dubbing. Like, I got on, like a couple studios, like mailing lists for like auditions, and was booking dubbing roles and mostly live action stuff. So like live action foreign shows, and then eventually like getting like, small, like supporting, we started with like Operator A, those like small parts in anime, and then like kind of working my way up through like supporting roles. So like even that 7.5 year span that I was working as a forensic scientist, but also trying to do acting and voiceover, like I did, like I was starting out in anime. So I was in, my first anime was Knights of Sidonia. It was a lot of like Netflix anime from like 2015. So like
right.
I was in Devilman Crybaby. I was a few small roles in Violet Evergarden, the series. Forest of Piano, I think that was one of the later ones before I was like, okay, at some point around like 2017, 2018, I was like, I gotta like make a choice. Like either forensic science is my career or acting is my career. Like,
right. You have to pick one or the other.
Yeah. Like there just came a friction point, and I was like, I gotta cut one, or just know that like acting will only ever be like a part-time thing. And I thought maybe I could like make it a full-time thing. So I took a chance and quit my day job, and it took another year or two, but that's in that span of time, I was just taking more classes, trying to get to know more people. And eventually, like through like some jobs, which included like Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I did like additional voices for that, I made connections that led me to my agency. I met Vox, and I love them. And after that gave me access to so many more auditions than I would never have had access to by myself, because I'm not great at being an agent for myself, and I'm not great at searching out stuff. And who is? Like very few people are. Like that's a skill. It's a really important skill to try to hunt out work for yourself, but it's difficult.
There's only so much you could do by yourself.
There can be a ceiling to what you can do by yourself if you don't foster those connections, right?
Right.
But yeah, after I got my agency, like, then, I started seeing bigger and better auditions, and eventually I started booking bigger and better things like Jujutsu Kaisen.
What? There she is. There she is.
Yeah, so like, it's like a long story, but like, I took the long route, but I wouldn't have done it any other way, just because for me, like I'm an artist, and I'm free spirited and whatever, but I also am my father's daughter, and I am fairly practical about things like, well, I gotta eat and I gotta pay my bills.
Right. So you had to find the balance between those two things.
Yeah. And I'm lucky that I have like a really good network of people. Like my husband was really supportive of me when I was like, I think I want to cut the other job.
Right.
Like, and that's like one thing I tell people is like, if you got to make sure you have your community of people around you, and you still got to put money on the table, man. Bread on the table.
You do. Yes. I think that's really a great story, because you really did pursue your passion, but also you're still being practical, like you said. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you.
No, it's. I would think it would be hard. But now, has working as a voice actor impacted the way you are involved in fandoms, or that you view being a fangirl?
Yeah, it's really interesting because we were talking about like all the stuff like I'm into, and like I've never been super vocal about it in like a larger forum like the internet until I became part of the media that people are fandoms of. Like now I'm realizing, oh, I can actually like talk about it, not just like be a fan of it.
Right.
I feel like in the last couple of years, I've felt even more like at liberty to be open, super open about like the things I love. And even then, like, I suppose as being like a person like that people look at, like I have to be careful of the things I say, like, in general, but I think it's cool that what I love about being a part of Jujutsu Kaisen in particular is that I'm a fan of it. Like if I had just found it on my own, like I would have read this whole thing like cover to cover in like 2 days, which is kind of what I did when I finally sat down to read the manga.
It's addicting.
Right? But like it's so cool to be part of this series in my way that I love and that other people love, and we can all love it together, and then we can talk about it, and that's so cool.
Right, it fosters community. It really does, like in a bond between people. It's such a great. I find that Jujutsu Kaisen fandoms are really accepting one, very wanting to make friends. People want to make friends with everybody.
Yeah.
Now, you see that fans have embraced these characters you voice in many different ways, whether it's cosplay, art, fashion. How does it feel to experience what these people create from your end of things?
Oh my gosh. Every time I'm at a convention, I'm just continuously blown away with like just the massive amount of talent that people bring to my table, like if they're like cosplaying, or if they like bring me a piece of art that they made, or even just like the vendors, Artist Alley and like the vendor hall, just like everyone is so creative. They come up with such amazing concepts for art or for like pieces of merch. Like someone gave me a vendor gave me a sweatshirt at Otaku Fest recently that was like, it was like a lavender sweatshirt. It was a Red and Shogun one, but it had like Red and Shogun's eyes like in the little patch here in the front. I was like, that's so cool. It looks great. And then it had like the symbol like on, and like more symbols on the arm. I was like, this is tight. And I wore it. I wore it for the rest of the day because it was cold in the convention center. And so everyone's coming to the table, like we're taking pictures and like, I love your sweatshirt. Where'd you get it? And I'm like, wow, you can just go see her in the vendor hall. Just go that way.
Nice. He probably was very happy about that networking.
Go spend your money there too.
Oh, the Artist Alley is definitely always amazing because I'm not artistic, so I'm always very, very amazed by what people can create.
Totally. Yeah. No, I just love walking down and be like, I like your art.
Right. What would you tell a younger version of yourself, knowing what you know now about embracing your inner fangirl? What would you tell a younger version of yourself?
I think I would tell her that you just got to find the right people to like be able to nerd out with. And like, if you look for them, you will find them. And you don't have to just like sit back and think, well, I'm going to consume all of this like on my own in my little corner. There are people out there, and if you look for them, you'll find them.
I think that's great advice. It lasts over generations. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't necessarily have to be some people our age. It could go with teenagers now. Just excellent advice.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, especially because like I'm in my late 30s, but like getting to know all these fans who are like, they're young, they're like in high school, college, and I'm like, you're so young, but we can still like connect on this level because of our shared love of these fandoms. Yeah,
a fandom. Yes, completely. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it again. Aww. And this has been amazing.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun talking with you again.
Thank you so much.